Wednesday, July the 6th, 2011, and this is my recollection of the speech I made at Tutty Day on April the 21st, 2009. Barbara Barr was our First Lady Constable, and she follows a line going back over the centuries to John Tuckhill, who was Constable in 1476. My speech, the one that I made on this day, was the last of four, and the toast was to the town and manor of Hungerford and the liberty of Sand and Fay. It was a great privilege to make the speech, because over the past 50 years of my life in Hungerford, this is the fourth occasion when I've been privileged to make the speech. The first time was for John Pallett, when he was constable and I was chairman of the parish council in the 60s. And that, of course, was in the Three Swans in those days. And it was followed by equally speeches that I made from constables Robert James and Bruce Mayhew. And now we come to today. I think my love of Hungerford is well known and is second only to my wife and my family and my church. I've lived all my life in the Hungerford Postal District, and since 1938 within the boundaries of the town. My wife and my two sons are both born in Hungerford, so I think we can all claim to be true Hungerfordians. I have a great feeling for history. I'm immensely proud of my 45 years as a town councillor, 9 years as chairman and mayor, 30 as a trustee of the town and manor, 60 with the cricket club, 29 years, the last 29 years as president, 60 with the fire brigade, the last 22 years operational, 25 years as John Gaunt governor, and having founded the Twinning Association in 1980. I think it's true to say that no one living or dead has attended more meetings than I have in this historic building. Offshoots from this activity have seen me with the landscape group, which has been responsible for a good deal of the tree planting over the last 40 years. And in particular, I'm immensely proud to have been allowed to organise the Millennium Planting, which was over 100 trees, and I hope people in the future will realise that the spread of oak trees from the cricket club to the Ink Pen Gate will be something in the next 100 years to remember by. The Trade and Industry Group was perhaps the most important of the offshoot companies, because in the 80s Hungerford suffered disastrously through loss of jobs. We were faced with the onward march of the property developer, and such names as Chilton and James and Company, Low-Heat, Davidson's Industries, McLean Engineering, Wardridge's, J.T. Gibbs, all disappeared, a loss of some 500 jobs, and it was disastrous. And together with Ron Terry, we challenged the town to do something about it. We formed TIE, Trade, Industry and Employment Group. It was well supported by everybody in the town who really mattered. And moreover, we had support from both the county and the district council. We really were looking first of all for an alternative site for the industry, which had mostly been centred in the western end of Hungerford. And the tachograph was just coming to be a big problem, and lorry drivers weren't prepared to go the length of Hungerford High Street or Church Street. And we looked for a site and we found what we thought was the right answer in Charnham Street Meadows. It was adjacent to the Swindon Road, to the A4, it was easy access onto the A338 and onto the M4, had all those advantages. It had the one major disadvantage, that it was a floodplain. This was overcome because we had support from planners who cared for Hungerford and wanted to see the thing put right. And the channel which was created has meant that the site has never had a flood since the day we built it. I failed to a degree because we couldn't replicate the high employment industries that we'd had before. They're high-tech companies for the most part, and they don't employ anywhere near as many people, but at least we now have an industrial base. My delight in historical facts is well known, and if I just briefly sketch over the people like John Gaunt, who is the benefactor of Hungerford, The school is named after him, the pub is named after him. And then we come to Simon de Montfort, who we also recognise with streets named by in his name, who was the father of the English Parliament. And of course, one should never forget the 1688 events when William of Orange came marching down the High Street with 15,000 soldiers. Now I challenge anyone who was able to be there to go into the High Street on a December day, because that's when he came, December 1688, and try and picture the scene. I've done it several times and it's eerie to imagine, because there were Laplanders and there were people from Suriname, because the Dutch were great seafarers and William was a Dutchman, albeit he married an English lady. For 3 days they tarried in Hungerford while they negotiated with the King's Commissioners. This was James, and eventually William moved to Littlecote because the Bear Hotel was too noisy with all those troops outside. But it was total success achieved here, and it was a bloodless revolution, or as it became known later as the Glorious Revolution, when William and Mary took the throne of England. Now we reenacted this scene, and we turned the parish church, St Lawrence's, into the Bear Hotel, and it was a tremendous community play. So many people were involved, and it was a great success. I played I suppose, a fairly major part in as much as I oversaw the thing, but there were so many good actors. We had to employ professionals to do some of the most important jobs. Come forward then to 1870, when this building was built. And of course this was actually the 4th town hall. The other 3 had been in the High Street and in the marketplace, and they'd fallen into dereliction and had been destroyed. Mr. Cherry of Denford House opened the building in 1871, and it's been a great success until we came to the period in the 1980s when it was so badly in need of repair we had to contemplate major renovation. Now 2 things came together at that juncture. One was the sale of Charnham Street Meadows, which were owned by the town of Manor, and the second was that Donald Macey was constable. He was a man with great engineering experience. He was able to superintend the renovation of the town hall in Corn Exchange. Major jobs. The floors were taken up, the roof came off. You cannot imagine what the building looked like at that juncture. Marching on forward from there, because I have skipped a great chunk of history, let me go back to 1893, where Mr. Platt, the constable of the day, said at Tutty Day that he no longer could house the fire engine in the brewery yard because he was selling the brewery. And the challenge went out to people on Tutty Day, and by October of that year the new fire station had been created in Charnham Street, and we went forward from there. We had to move from Charnham Street, of course, in the end, because of the sheer weight of traffic, to the site of Hungerford's largest fire, which was in 1960 when James's Mill burnt down. Let me not jump too far forward. Let's go back to 1894, the first election for the parish council. Everybody was agog because they thought this was a great attempt at democracy in Hungerford. 600 people were eligible to vote, 28 nominations for 11 seats, total chaos because the room was so crowded you couldn't move, and it said, and I love this expression, that the men at the back shuffled their feet and smoked their pipes. Nothing could be done that particular day, but between early December and before Christmas they actually arranged a parliamentary style election. I doubt you could do it today, and we duly elected the parish council for the first time in 1894. There were great banquets immediately after the First World War. The period that I remember most is that period, perhaps. The markets were in here. The room was filled with chickens and rabbits and all manner of things, and tables full of vegetables. And it was an exciting time for small boys, as I was then. Roller skating, of course. And Sidney Bushnell, the caretaker and the town crier, was an expert roller skater. And my wife well remembers roller skating here, although I was never an exponent of that particular art. became a donut dugout during the war. The Americans took it over lock, stock and barrel at the end of the war, and we weren't even allowed to come in as Hungerfordians. It was full of American Red Cross ladies who were beautiful but very stern in their application of the law. Immediately after the war, the period perhaps most familiar to me, post-war dances, 2 and 6 to go in, a live band, you've got a cup of tea and a bun, all included in your £half-a-crown. The fur and feather whist drives that we created then, Mrs. Tommy Huntley, MC, with 88 tables, some of them upstairs in the town hall with a sub-MC on the balcony. The jumble sales were here. They were wonderful jumble sales. I remember the cricket club one in 1948 when we proudly said all sales by males. And we were selling walling pads for 5 shillings, much to the astonishment of some of the dealers in the hall today. We come on down now to its present state, when the big events in the town hall are, I call it colloquially the town hall, but this particular room is of course the Corn Exchange. But we get the Historical Association, the parish meetings, the big exhibitions we've had here, one for 100 years of the town council's life and one for 100 years with the fire brigade. In 1987, a year that's well remembered by everybody in Hungerford, the year of the tragedy, we had been twinned with the French for 7 years by this time, and their visits to Hungerford were almost every year, and they could not understand why the town hall and Corn Exchange was locked during the day. It just seemed foreign to them. Well, if they were here in 1987, it wasn't. It was open every day for months and months and months because the administration of that colossal fund that we raised on that year was well to be remembered. In the past, town councillors, trustees, school governors were all intermingled. I served on all 3 bodies, and though I was one of only a good few people who did the same, no longer is this applicable, and it's sad that people don't flow between one body and the other because the town gets great advantage from it. My job now today is to make a toast to the town and manor of Hungerford, and I do this with great pleasure because I find that Hungerford is the most gracious, the most kind, and certainly the place that I could never see replaced in my wish to live anywhere else. Thank you very much. Now that's a bit goggled up and messed up.
No, that's very good, Jack. I think that's really got it to a T. You know, I'm most impressed because you don't have verbatim, you know, you just have prompts. And to put a speech together like that, ad hoc with prompts, is no easy task.
No. Well, thank you for your kindness in saying so.
Well, it isn't, and I salute you for being able to do it. It's an amazing history, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, and I think too, to be able to re-energise and invigorate a town like this is a tremendous achievement.
It needs people like you, Andrew.
Well, it's had people like you,
well, yes, yeah, well.
And I went down. Alistair drove down from Glasgow on Friday, and his tyre burst 7 miles out and shredded, and we had to go to Ian Brown's daughter's wedding on Saturday, and there are 2 tyre places down at Charnham Street, and there are all sorts of activities. I got all the family's old photographs digitised down there.
Yeah.
There was a little unit there that digitised the pictures, and so it's given a whole industrial element. And you're right, the new companies are high-tech, they don't employ that many people, but there's a lot of them there.
Yes, there is.
And there aren't many small towns around that can boast that, and I salute you for it.
Well, you know, I've given a lot of time to Hungerford, and I've been richly rewarded because they allow me to go on living here, and I just walk up and down the street and meet so many people.
Well, as
half of them I don't know their names, but Margaret does.
As my father would say, you get out what you put in.
Yeah.
And I'm told I'm more like him every day, and that's fine by me.